Hey everybody, it's your girl Anisha coming in for another edition of Industry Conversations 101. We always have a jam-packed show for you guys every Thursday. This week, of course, we have another round of self-care this week. With me live tonight, we have TJ Vita, who will be with me, who's my special guest tonight, who'll be with me, who will be talking about her foundation of Seize the Cure. As well on the ones and twos with me tonight, I have DJ Gates, who is always on the ones and twos, giving us that fire mix for Industry Conversations one-on-one artists. So I thank you guys so much again for tuning in every Thursday, kicking it with me. Last week's show was wonderful. Of course, this week's show is going to be just as well. Make sure you guys tune in with me for a special edition next Wednesday, as we will have Lil G from the group Silk. So very excited about that. Make sure you all tune in next Wednesday for that interview as well. I'm very excited for that as well. We have so much going on in the industry right now. So many opinions, about the virus, and also in regards to the vaccine within itself. So we see so much stuff going on, so much stuff right now that that a lot of artists are kind of protesting and kind of just pretty much making it known of how they feel basically about the vaccine and also about the virus. So there's so many opinions right now in regards to that. So definitely, want to take the opportunity to tell everyone, make sure you stay safe, and make sure whatsoever that your family is safe as well. There's just so many things that are going on right now in the world until we are just so heartbroken as we continue to move through this, devastating virus. Again, it's just one of those things that we will get through. So, industry conversations, as I said last week, is that we're here to give you the game. We're here to tell you about things in the industry, also about self-care as we move through this difficult time right now in the world. Again, like I said, we have a jam-packed show for you all. And again, we will be right back with you all with the Industry Conversations one-on-one mix with DJ Gates.
Being with you is always on my mind. Staying with him is always the time. This feeling's a real temptation, it's so hard to find. Screaming out like, who do you love? No IG. All of these bros, I swear one of y'all coming home. Yeah. John Wall, I'm finna flex. If I'm with you, bitch, then I'm finna sex. I don't apologize for nothing in the past. Bad boy, I'm puffy combs in the flesh. Like, oh no. DJ knocking at new joint. Molly in a drink, now she tryna fuck. Shorty face down and the bottoms up. Loud in the air and the bottoms up. Like way up. I'm a real nigga, I don't chase them. Throw a couple dollars for a fast break. Hit a 1-2, and that's a layup. Who do you love? Are you for sure? Is it me? Who do you love? Yeah. Are you for sure? Tell me it's me, girl. Are you for sure? Do you love? Who do you love? Yeah. I wanna be your baby. I wanna be the only one, I wanna be your lady, cause you got me going crazy. I need it all the time, day and night, on a daily. Just give it to me, baby, cause they don't understand the kind of man I need to save me, yeah. These other dudes be wasting my time, but not you, cause you stay on my mind. Look, you know the kind of guy that I need in my life, the kind of man that'll trick me right and take me on trips at night, and we don't even fight. But anytime we fall out, we make it all right. Plus, he don't play no games, all he wanna do is ball. And walks up with a chicken, so we make a call. We tear up the mall, so you know we spend it all. And money ain't a thing to us, so you know we ball. Trips on the beach with the white sand, exotic places he like, babe, you can bring a friend. We on the same shit, so we always making plans, and all we do is spend bread, real dividends. A true king, money real modest. A real hard worker, but he get it honest. And I'm his queen, so he call me goddess. I got that ill, now what you know about it? He say he's run, cause he know that I'm the one. And hold it down for him, so you know I'm one-on-one. And there is no replacing him. And I ain't gotta worry about these other hoes be chasing him. I wanna be your baby. I wanna be the only one. I wanna be your lady, cause he got me going crazy. I need it all the time, day and night. Do we have a problem, baby? No, I didn't think so. So will you please get out my way? Do you love me, baby? No, I didn't think so. There's nothing more to say. I wanna love you, to forgive you. I wanna die for you. It's true. I'm gonna stand around and let you put me down. I'm so tired of being your fool. It's too late, 'cause I got me a suitcase. Look around, I'll be a suitcase. Why you say pick up the bags? Now you got a little free time. I got a suitcase, I got a suitcase, I got a suitcase. Got it over my head. I got a suitcase, I got a suitcase, I got a suitcase. 'Cause I'm never gonna let you know. Feeling me. You said you can't do it, but you're fiending for me. Told you make room, yeah, I'm coming through. Told you what I wanted, and you wanted too. Girl, I've been missing you. Kept it up front from the jump, now I'm dissing you. Yo, you making girl, I've been missing you. Kept it up front from the jump, now I'm dissing you. Yo, you making girl, I've been missing you. Girl, I've been missing you. Kept it up front from the jump, now I'm dissing you. Yo, you making girl, I've been missing you. Kept it up front from the jump, now I'm dissing you. Yo, you make it hard, so I mirror me. I had a thing for you back when I was Timmy T. Pardon my discretion if I'm feeling me. You said you can't do it, but you're fiending for me. Told you make room, yeah, I'm coming through. Told you what I wanted, and you wanted too. You went from love you to hate, boo. You got in your way, yes I did too. Shorty feel a certain way, that's turnkey. She was getting out of control, not me. Can't say I saw the breakup, I'm hurt too. Every day she be beefing what she going through. I gave her love and affection. Yo, she gave me a headache, rejection. She had no affection. I'm splash. And get it, girl. Got the trap back jumping all the hoe. Back pulling up in the farm BB. I'm outside. Hitters on deck, violated, disrespect. I send them at your neck. What's pop? I'm outside. Ducking them D's, whipping B's when I'm outside. Serving the bees, what you need, boy, I'm outside. I'm outside with it, yeah, I'm outside. I'm outside with it and we live. Got the trap back jumping all the hoe. Back pulling up in the farm BB. I'm outside. Hitters on deck, violated, disrespect. I send them at your neck. What's pop? I'm outside. I'm outside with it, yeah, I'm outside. I only for niggas that be down the ride. I only for niggas that be back the line. Tell the on the pole, trying to buy. Miss Independent with a dope boy salary. We on fire, let it burn like calories. Treat 5-star spots like Applebee's. What's the difference when you got it? Don't get mad at me. You the one and I know it. I'm trying to keep you close like butter plates on spring glow. Wherever your finger land, we gone. You ain't got a pack the bag. We go shopping when we land. Homie. It was rock, rock style.
All right, welcome back, you all, to Industry Conversations 101. Thank you so much, Gates, for the Industry Conversations 101 mix. As I told you all that I had a special guest that would be joining me tonight, and that is TJ Vita, who will pretty much be talking to us um, about her Foundation See Secure, and also talking about epilepsy and domestic violence. I know that there are several individuals who are going through that right now, especially with domestic violence, as it is an all time high right now within, especially the Black community, also Latina community as well. So I'm very interested to get into the conversation tonight with TJ Vita and talk a little bit more about Seize the Cure and pretty much find out how we can, learn more about epilepsy and also domestic violence as well. TJ, want to welcome you to Industry Conversations 101. How are you?
How are you? Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? You hear me? You can hear me? Oh boy. Hello? You hear me? I did.
I think the internet connection, it keeps going in and out.
Yeah, it is. This is why I can't stand these new days of electronics. But you can hear me now? Oh boy.
Okay, there you are.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me okay?
I don't know if it's like the weather. I think everybody's having like technical difficulties last night with Zoom.
I know I'm moving my computer like it's going to make a difference, but I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Can you hear me now? Trying to get this.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know. I don't know what it is because it was been working fine on my end. But who knows? Like you said, everything has been kind of funny with the internet. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay. I can hear you clearly now. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me. This is not working. I'm gonna move to a different spot in my house and see if that helps. Excuse me. Okay. Can you? Is it working now? This internet connection is horrible. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I moved to a different location, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Okay. But it sounds like it's a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay. So how are you? Thank you
I'm
so
good.
much
How
for
are
coming.
you?
Good,
I'm
good,
sorry
good.
I'm moving this around trying to get comfortable.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much for joining the show with us tonight. We got so much to touch on, especially talking about your many talents. You're an actress, songwriter, radio personality, also spokesperson for domestic violence, and also the founder of Seize the Cure, Seize the Cure for epilepsy. So it's
Hmm.
I want to get into first off, like how did you like your love for your activism and your spokesperson for epilepsy and also domestic violence. So, how did that come about?
Well, in regards to epilepsy, I have epilepsy myself. I just don't speak of it that much. But where I got very passionate about it was my son was diagnosed with epilepsy when he was 7, and he started convulsing about the age of 13, 14, and he's been nonstop with convulsions ever since. And in 2017, I did a one time with the intention of one time event for epilepsy, incorporating the music. And the Epilepsy Foundation director came out and was so impressed that he asked me to continue doing these events with his support. So about 2 years ago, they came out to the first workshop that I did regarding epilepsy for epilepsy awareness. And he nominated Seize the Cure to represent the Bronx in spreading epilepsy awareness. The Bronx is, I didn't know this at the time, but the Bronx is not covered for having an organization for epilepsy awareness advocacy. So it's the only borough that doesn't have any representation. So they nominated Seize the Cure to be that representation. I started doing it because as I went along dealing with my son and his convulsions and all the challenges that came with having a neurological condition that's life-threatening and life-changing, I had to really deal with the challenges by myself. No one told me that these things were going to come with that. So when you deal with someone who has convulsions, you never know when it's going to happen. He's had a number of injuries. There's times that he really could have died if, thankfully that didn't happen. But everything I had to learn, I learned on my own. And, doctors focus on the diagnosis and playing around with treatment as they're supposed to. But I didn't know all the other things that were going to come with this condition. Everything from losing work to academics to, he's 19, he's becoming an adult now. All that transition by itself for a child who doesn't have a condition is already difficult. The fear of him having a seizure outside, and he's a Black male. And obviously we know what's going on in this world with the police or just people are scared. You see something like that and you may think the person is high, so it's so much involving that, the emotional aspect, the memory loss, the perception, or how they perceive things or learn. And especially if you look normal. If you look normal, people expect you to be normal, and they have that high expectation. So I wasn't told of these things. I had to learn along the way, even from safety measures in my own house for him. And my whole thing is you can't deal with a condition if you don't know about it yourself and know how to advocate for your own child. And there's a lot of parents who, they may be bilingual, they may not have the intelligence or the sense of how to look for certain things. And Seize the Cure is not just about the person who has epilepsy, it's more for the caregiver, because someone with this condition needs all the support that they can get. And the person taking care of them needs to be aware of prevention and resources that are available, not only to the person who has epilepsy, but also to the caregiver. Because if you're taking care of someone who's sick, you're going to be faced with, challenges with keeping a job. or having to move, or having to go to different doctors and research. It's a 24-hour job. So I love music, and I also see music as a very personal thing for me. So I figured, you know what, let me start Seize the Cure, and not just do this one-time event, but let me make this a cause. It's a cause that's not spoken about, and let me help other families that want the help, and also teach people in the community about seizures itself, because you don't have to have epilepsy to have seizures. So it's important that we're all aware of it. And that was the point of Seize the Cure. I wanted to bring the music into it because music is therapy. And right now I'm holding a fundraiser, the first fundraiser. I've done 6 events and we've never raised money. But now I say, you know what, we're going to do a fundraiser this time. And I've been holding the fundraiser since May because I know times are hard. So I figured, let me not do just the one event fundraiser. Let me do a fundraiser that is extended all the way up until the event. The event is going to be a virtual event, November 21st. Obviously, with COVID, virtual is the way to go. And it also reaches out to the epilepsy community outside of just the Bronx. And the epilepsy community is very active all over outside of New York. And I wanted to reach everyone. So it's going to be aired November 21st. We have Allure headlining as well as Little Vicious. And up until then, I'm just trying to raise funds however I can. And it's to support the programs that I am putting into epilepsy awareness and seizure safety. I'm going to be providing workshops. I'm going to be providing support groups. My son has now become more active in wanting to be a part of it, so, which is great because he's the inspiration to this. So he's actually, I've started Seize the Cure radio show, which is pretty much dedicated to epilepsy awareness. And the artists who have been a huge part of supporting Seize the Cure play their music. And my son's going to start helping interviewing, you know, some of the epilepsy warriors and professionals that come on with information.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful,
Thank
TJ.
you.
I think just as you stated, I think a lot of people are not aware of epilepsy, and you know, what are some of the causes, what are some of the triggers, and I love the fact that you stated that the foundation is pretty much for the caregiver, because of course a lot of the times a lot of the caregivers are not aware of some of the triggers, and not aware of how to take care of someone with epilepsy. And even, you know, statistics state that there are that 3.4 million people in this world that have epilepsy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are not aware of some of the triggers. What are some of the things that you would you know, state to those that are not aware that they should be aware of, especially with those that are some of the things that they need to look for with someone with epilepsy?
Well, see, this is where it gets very tricky, and a huge part of this needs to start in our school system. And I'm going to tell you why. Epilepsy looks very similar to ADHD. And many of our children, especially our young Black males and Hispanics, are misdiagnosed. You know, when your child is being considered for an evaluation, they're not telling you to take your child to a neurologist to have an evaluation to make sure that there's nothing neurological going on. They're looking at the attention span. They're looking at what they call daydreaming. And it happened with me. I was daydreaming a lot when I was in second grade, and they wanted to have me evaluated. They kept complaining that to my mom that I was daydreaming. And, you know, luckily she had my father has epilepsy. He got it from a motorcycle accident. And they took me to a neurologist, and sure enough, I had an EEG, and it showed, you know, abnormality in my brain waves. So many of our children are diagnosed with behavior problems and learning, you know, conditions, but that's not what it is. They're not being medically evaluated first to rule out. And there's a lot of similarities with the two conditions between epilepsy, because not everyone has convulsions that have epilepsy. You have epilepsy where the person may just have staring spells, or they may be talking to you and then they'll just stop and they'll just stare at you. And then a few minutes later, they continue like nothing, or they may not remember what they were saying. So it's very hard to catch, especially if it's not a convulsion situation. Obviously, a convulsion, you're looking at a person who will fall to the floor unexpectedly, violently shake, foam coming out the mouth, eyes rolling behind their head, and they stop breathing at some point. But when they're having attention span ish, as you call it, what it looks like,
right,
you know, just not focusing, or you'll miss it. And with epilepsy, if you start off with having petit mal, which is the seizures that I'm just speaking about, that's more of daydreaming, it'll escalate into convulsions if it's not caught.
okay.
So every person is different. With my son, I noticed with him, he's gonna have one. It could be 2 weeks before I notice the symptoms, or it could be a few days. He just has like this look. I can't explain it, but as a mother, I don't know if you're a mother, but we just know. We know our kids. And once you deal with something like this, you start to notice every pattern that comes before the seizure and after. With him, his mood changes. He gets a little more playful. His eyes kind of do, it's something with his eyes that it just, you can see it. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but I can see these symptoms as far as 2 weeks before it happens, or it could be a few days. It all depends on, he has refractory epilepsy, which means that it's not controlled.
Okay.
So it's been a long battle.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I can't fathom that. But, you know, as a mom, as you stated, like when something like that happens, you tend to, you know, kind of start to view or look at things a little bit different, and you start to pick up on certain signs, you know, and try to be prepared. And like you said, like a lot of when people think about seizures, they think about the convulsions. They don't think about like you said, the mild cases of when, you know, they're staring at you, and you know, then they'll go on like, you know, like nothing ever happened. And then come to find out that they may have had, you know, a seizure, and you're not really aware of you know, what some of the symptoms are. And it's very interesting, you know, how you break that down to help us understand, you know, that of course there's so many different types. So we as individuals, those that are not accustomed to being around this every single day, it's more like we're like, okay, that's what we need to, you know, begin to look for. And like you said, it like it's more like it's different for everybody. You know, growing up, like you said, in school, it's not spoken about a lot. You don't hear about it. But I remember like in school, we would always see the worst part, the convulsions. We wouldn't see, you know, the mild cases. So it's very interesting, you know, of how certain different types of epilepsy occur in individuals. It's very interesting. And I do agree. Like, you know, there should be some type of, like you said, starts within the schools where we're able to learn more and educate it more, especially, you know, on epilepsy, especially because teachers, of course, need to be aware of it. They do need to be aware of it, especially when you have a child that have a special case such as that, you know. And I think I remember like back in the day they used to because now with HIP and everything else, you can't really come out and say so much. But at the same time, I think it's like when you do have a student that does disclose, you know, a disability, something such as that, it's more so like, okay, how and, you know, what will I need to do as a caregiver, as a teacher, you know, to be able to assist this child, you know, when they may have a seizure during class. You know, because it like you said, it can happen. And then there's triggers, especially I remember, you know, studying it, and they would also say, you know, when they become happy or overexcited, sometimes that's when it intends to happen, you know. So it's
well, I just
very,
learned
very
something very interesting not so long ago. Because one thing I'm going to be providing are trainings for seizure safety, but the ambulance, they're not trained. The workers are not trained in seizure safety.
wow.
Now, how do you deal with a medical condition and you're I can't tell you how many times I call 911 and had them there. How are you not trained in that?
That is so wow.
I just learned this, and I learned this from someone who I know personally that supports Seize the Cure, and he used to work for them. He used
wow.
to work for EMS, and he said he didn't even know he didn't know what epilepsy was.
Jesus.
And I said, well, what do you mean you don't know what epilepsy is? It's like going to a supermarket and not knowing what food is. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So
Right.
when he told me that, he says, no, we're not trained in that. And I said, okay,
Wow.
that's good to learn, because now I know what I need to target,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I want to talk about your activism, being an advocate for domestic violence as well. I know that's one of your platforms that you have besides
Yes.
Seize the Cure. So tell me a little bit about your advocacy for domestic violence.
Okay. Domestic violence, the area that I cover is not the average, relationship violence. I cover rape survival and sexual assault. I'm a rape survivor myself. And I did not talk about it until quite a number of years back for the first time. And then I stopped, and I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to do it now. I needed to be more be more active with advocating for it, because I got tired of just seeing domestic violence talk about one aspect, which is relationships.
Wow.
And part of domestic violence is, rape and sexual assault. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be from a stranger. It's usually someone you know. And in many situations in relationships, that's going on as well.
Yep.
You have a lot of, now it's on the rise where you're dealing with marital rape, and it's not
Yes.
talked about. And that wasn't my situation per se. I wasn't with the person, but it was someone I knew. And I started working with We Are Phenomenal Woman, and she asked me if I would start doing workshops for it. And I've done about 4 so far. And I loved it. And I didn't even get to touch on everything. But I'm in school right now. I'm in my doctorate degree program for forensic
Congratulations.
psychology. Thank you.
Congratulations.
So this also coincides with the type of workshops that I'm aiming to do. I don't want to do just the regular, this is what you're looking for, this is what you do after it happens. No, I want to get into the mind of the offender, because for us that, and I'm going to say woman, it's not just women that this happens to, but let's just, for the sake of it, let's just say woman. We need to be aware of the mind of an offender so we can see the signs ahead of time. And not saying that'll prevent it happening, but in many cases, it may save us, because fighting back is not always the answer. You can get yourself killed doing that. But if you could see the signs of possession ahead of time, or the insecurities that come, and I'm talking about is a certain type of personality that you will see with these offenders, you can probably run before it even happens and, save yourself. So I really want to touch more on my workshops with, we need to understand the offender and what is the overall, how do I say it, but what is the overall foundation of what leads to that type of behavior? Because it's not a crime of passion. It's not a crime of lust. It's a crime of hate. It's a form of control. And a lot of people don't realize that. To this day, you still hear these stigmas. It's like, oh, well, he must really like her. No, it's not about that. It's something that they see and they feel within themselves, and they take an opportunity that they're given. So that's really my target with, working on domestic violence and being an advocate is rape and sexual assault. It's something that's not talked about. It's something that, unfortunately, the law has not caught up to the reality of what happens to the victim. And it's not talked about enough at home with our kids or in relationships, and society today has allowed a lot of the morals have changed and how young men are viewing women, young females, young girls, and how they're viewing themselves. And it's caused a huge transition in the culture of self-respect that I was taught differently. My father was military and had me when he was in his late 40s. So it was like, I can't understand it. And there's so much to go into that, but that's really where I stand with it. I'm going to become more active. You have to excuse my mess in the back of me because I'm in the process of moving. So that's why I was trying to avoid being out here, but couldn't avoid it with the internet. But yeah, I'm going to be more active. Those 4 workshops did so much for me personally, you know, and when you have, I'm the type of person that there could be a room of 500 people. And if I reach one person, I'm happy. If only 5 people show up, those 5 people are getting the best of me that a room of 500 would get. And that's what I love about it. Every time I do a Caesar Cure event, every time I speak on, you know, rape advocacy, I always reach someone that wasn't willing to talk about it. And just the fact that they're able to talk to me about it helps. It helps me.
Right. Agreed. And just as you said, I think it's more so where, like you said, there's these stigmas that are placed on when you talk about domestic violence because it's only one part when people think about that is just a relationship and they don't talk about the sexual assault or even the marital rape that goes in, goes in that category as well. And
Right.
like you said, it's not talked about a lot. And yes, the morals, the standards have changed. There's so many things that are right now out there that are online that does not teach, the youth now about a lot of things such as rape, even sexual assault, etc. And like you said, you're always taught to fight back, but however, you're not taught about, if you fight back, like you said, you can get yourself killed, or even trying to understand the signs. Like my dad was the same way, pretty much of being able to, kind of school me on some of the things, where you're going to a party, never leave your drink, standing alone because someone can always slip, something within your drink, etc. Those type of things are not taught as much.
Right.
Like you said, sometimes it's taught in the home, but then it's not even talked about because you have several individuals that are ashamed or afraid to even come forth and say, "Hey, this happened to me." And it's one of those things, especially in our culture, that is just sometimes that is swept up under the rug and that's not out there for everyone to be aware of.
Right.
And those different type of workshops, I think is great for the youth to engage in and to understand, and even adults too, to understand more about the signs to look for. And I love the concept of being in the mind of the offender. We
Yes.
never talk about the offender. We never talk about the offender because again, it's more so like you said, it's always talked about as a crime of passion. Well, he must really, 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 really wanted her. But but like you said, it's a part of hate. It's something within them that they want control over. And it's not just the physical part of the domestic violence. It's also the other part that we don't talk about, the marital rape, the sexual assault that goes within it, which that comes along with domestic violence that a lot of people
Yes.
don't talk about also.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of situations where the person they question if it was real. Always,
Yes.
yeah, well, maybe I should have said it more stern, or I was scared, so I went along with it. It's so many different scenarios that many a times there's a lot of people who have questioned and they know it is, but they're confused because they're taking the law into consideration or they're taking it self-blame. That's a huge thing. I don't know any victim in this world, and I've met a lot. I don't know anyone that hasn't went through the whole process of blaming themselves. I did, not now. I mean, now I'm so strong that I can't even take a man raising his voice at me. It's like my claws come out. Now it's like everyone's making up for all that I didn't get to assert at that time. But there's so much surrounding it. And just those 4 workshops had me thinking, I got to do more with this. And I'm sure there's some that probably look at me like, how could you even talk about the offender and this happened to you? What do you care? I do care because I'm about prevention. I couldn't save myself, but we need to know because that's where the signs are. How many times were other situations in our lives that the signs were there and we ignored it?
Agreed.
It goes the same way with that. The signs are usually there. And I'm not talking about a situation where it's a stranger and you're attacked. Obviously, that's something completely different. But the percentage of rapes, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was in the 70s to lower 80s of percentage of rape is from someone you know.
Mm.
So that just tells you, you gotta, there's a lot of things that we need to work on. And if you're not gonna do it for yourself, at least do it for your, the young girls in your life. Everybody has young girls in their life, whether it's your sister or your child or your nieces, we have to make sure that they're learning to be street smart.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. We just need to teach more of that, of especially for the young girls and
Yep.
either the youth period to be aware of those things and aware of the signs. Before I go, I do want to touch
Mm-hmm.
on the music. You are a singer, phenomenal singer.
Thank
However,
you.
DJ Gates had it in the mix before we were able to get on with the interview. And the song Temptation that you have that was
Mm-hmm.
released back in May, what was the inspiration for
Well, it's an interesting question. Um,
that?
this is, I'm trying to be very careful how okay. I, majority of the years in music, and I'm excluding from when I was very young and had horrible experiences. When I came back into music, majority of those years, I was a part of Diverse Gravity, which at the time was my other half. And Temptation was, out of all the songs that we did, was my song. So we recently had tried to bring Diverse Gravity back again, but it
Hmm.
didn't work out on any level. So Temptation is all I have right now. Now, that doesn't stop anything because that's just what I have right now. This interview came at a very interesting time when everything is transitioning. So
Wow.
I'm actually working on new music. Um, I'm TJ Vita. Everyone always knew me through Diverse Gravity at one time, and now it's like I need to learn myself as TJ Vita because I'm very Tara proactive, and
Got it.
I have a lot of passion when it comes to me as a person, as a personal person. But when it comes to TJ Vita, I haven't really found myself. And now
Mm,
I said, it's been a long time, and now it's time for me to focus on all the things I want to do, work with all the people I want to work with. I have great people in my corner. I'm also vice president to Bomb Baby, and I have my radio shows the C Secure radio show and Bomb Vita radio show are under the Bomb Baby radio network. Um, I also do a podcast every 2 weeks and every other week, excuse me. And I'm working on new music and I'm excited about it.
yeah,
know,
definitely
I'm
excited
learning to
for
apply
you.
the music to the emotions I'm going through, and the things I'm going through right now emotionally is very
Yeah,
challenging, but I'm learning to say, you know what, let me start using music for that and really using it and
yeah,
pouring out my
yeah.
heart.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing here at Industry Conversations 101. We don't just talk about music, but we also kind of try to give, some type of inspiration, motivation to those that are trying to look to get into other avenues of industry besides music, but as well,
Right.
talking about the music and talk about things that they go through. Just as you stated as an artist, how important it is to kind of learn yourself as you was a part of another group, but now it's time to tap into TJ Veda as well and just basically put your heart into your music. And I like Temptation, by the way. I was
Oh,
listening to
thank you.
it. um and so it yeah, so I am very excited for you, TJ, to hear more music from you, to hear the production that comes out of everything that I know that you've been through, everything that you talked about, even incorporating the music with Seeds the Cure. I think that is a great way. Like you said, music is therapeutic. For those that are watching tonight, understand that music is very, 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 very therapeutic.
If you
It
allow
starts
it,
my day.
if you allow
Yes.
it. Because with me, that was the thing. I wasn't allowing it to be a therapy. It was more of an obligation because I have so much on my plate.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the last minute I found out I'm moving out of state, next week. And right before I was included to perform, next week for a launch party for the agency, which that's kind of like my going away, my first performance in a while, and my last before leaving. So, but yeah, I'm really excited because now I'm thinking about TJ Vito.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
You know,
I'm I'm very excited for you. And before I let you go, give everybody, especially for I know you said in November that you're having the fundraiser. We definitely want to help out with that.
thank
Want the
you.
viewers to know exactly where they can go for the fundraiser, and then also your social media where we can find you.
Okay, this is the part I'm horrible with. Bear with me. So on Facebook, it's TJ Vita. On Instagram is TJ underscore Vita. I also have a Facebook page for Seize the Cure, which is Seize the Cure. That's SEIZE, the Cure, CURE. The website is Seize the Cure, the number 4 epilepsy. And the event is November 21st. It's going to be where we're selling tickets. It's virtual. So I'll be posting the links with all the information on where to get tickets. And of course, I've been doing the fundraising aspect, which is accepting donations. However, even if it's not monetary, but let's say you have a business and you want to sponsor, by all means, just reach out to me. There's always a way to support, even if you don't have money, but you want to, put your business to a pause or give back. There's always a way. I always look for a way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Make sure I get the link as well. Send us that information
Oh
too, and
yeah, definitely. I'll give you all the
definitely love to
information.
support as well. But thank you again, TJ, for coming on the show. I
Thank
learned a
you.
lot. I hope everybody else learned a lot in regards to epilepsy, and then also diving into your music just as well as talking a little bit more in detail about domestic violence, not just the one side, the other side of it as well.
Right.
And and I think the more and more that we talk about this, I think the more and more that everybody will be educated on these two topics that we really
That's
don't see
right.
in our culture a lot. I really, 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 really appreciate you, TJ, and
Thank
I
you.
look forward to hearing your music,
I have
ma'am.
the, well, you know what? I will say this. There was a song I started doing a while back and I stopped,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna put it out. I'm just touching it up and it's called Vengeance. So that song is coming out very soon.
All right, I will be looking forward for real, like
Yeah.
really like looking forward because I would love to hear more, and I was trying to review your SoundCloud as well to hear more music from you as well. So I am excited for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your journey, especially with your doctorate degree, and then also
Oh, yeah.
your new journey. You moving out of the state, so
Yeah.
please definitely keep in touch. And it was a pleasure to have you on Industry Conversations 101 tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks so much, TJ, for coming on the show. Gates, how you doing?
See, Zoom was already acting up already.
I think Zoom has just been acting up all day for everybody. I don't know. I think it's just something in the air this week. But there's a lot to talk about, Gates. Before we sign off tonight, did you watch the Fat Joe and Ja Rule versus?
Yes, I have. I enjoyed the music to the
Yeah.
one part that he did that
I
turned me
know,
off.
right? I know. And you know what? He went live last night. It was Ja Rule, Fat Joe, Remy Ma, and also it was Ashanti. They all went live, and he gave his apology. But of course, Lil Mo snapped back today, and Lil Mo kind of talked about the way that she felt. And
Yeah.
then Vita, Vita didn't do a live, but Vita kind of just put a blurb or whatever on her Instagram about,
Mm-hmm.
should she forgive him or should she accept his apology, etc. For
Mm-hmm.
me, when you're caught up, when you're in the moment, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the
Yeah.
moment, and I really think that's what it was. But again, we have to be careful about what we say, especially on platforms such as that.
Yes.
And I know Lil Mo's history. I know you know Lil Mo's history.
Yeah.
She's gone through a lot, and like she said, it's she's been clean for a while now. But she said
Yeah.
it's certain triggers for her, and her and Remy kind of like went back and forth about it.
Yeah,
Did you
on
see that?
social media. Yeah, on social media, like Remy Ma was more like, "You should get over it." He didn't mean it
Yeah.
like that, but you can't tell somebody how to get over something. Like you,
I said the same thing.
yeah, you
I
can't
said the
like.
same thing.
And Remy Ma is hot-headed, so every been times somebody said stuff about her, and she came right at them. So I
Yes,
don't
she
know how
did.
you could how you could be putting out positive. Oh, you should forget about it. I'm like, how you want to hide? Don't tell somebody to forget about it. You
Yeah.
wasn't like that a couple of years. Then you shoot somebody,
Agreed,
remember?
agreed. You know what I'm saying?
So
Like just like you said, like you can't really tell somebody how to feel,
yeah,
especially when they feel that they've been disrespected. Even though he came back and gave an apology, we still have to be careful about, certain triggers because to say, for one, to call somebody out of their name, and then number two, to say to call them dusty, and then you need to go back and get them from the crack house. Like, come on
yeah.
now.
That I mean, I want. I don't care how much of a battle you are. I mean, they're guests.
Yeah.
They not on the billboard. Nobody knew they was coming out. And for you to sit there and that was your dart to aim at them to call them a crackhead or a dusty,
Yeah.
that was tasteless because
It was.
I mean, had that been like, you never know, that could have been her kids, could have been in the audience to hear that, you know,
Yeah.
it could have went left.
Yeah, it could have went left really quick. Yeah,
yes,
I
so
agree. I
yes,
definitely agree with that.
but besides that, the show was good. I mean, I don't know what song would you enjoy when they performed it.
Yeah, you know what? The only song there's one particular song from me from that with Fat Joe and Remy Ma was I love Lean Back. But
Okay,
Ja Rule, you know, Ja Rule has always had a soft spot with me, and I guess
okay,
because Ja Rule reminds you a little bit of DMX because of the voice.
yeah,
And I'm a huge DMX fan, but at the
uh,
same time, like I just felt for not DMX, but however for Ja Rule's his ruggedness, his edginess, and then
yeah,
it's almost like he took almost like LL's persona, like when it comes to songs, to talking more about
yeah,
love and stuff. Like
yeah,
he made a lot of music that were like hits in the early 2000s, especially with the
yeah.
Shanti and
Uh-huh.
the classic Where Would I Be with Lil Mo and Vita. Like, come on
Yeah,
now, you know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, um,
yeah,
Fat Joe and Big Pun for me, I thought they was a great tag team.
yeah,
But Joe by himself, because Joe's been out for a while.
yeah,
Joe's been in this game for a while, and I remember the very first few records that Joe had. It wasn't really like, you know, it wasn't hidden for me. It
yeah,
wasn't really hidden for me until like the early 2000s, like when he really, really, really started like making some noise. To me,
yeah,
Ja Rule has a little bit more hits than Fat Joe
yeah,
does.
yeah. Yeah, Joe had more street records. That's what
Yeah,
like over here in New York, we'll be like, yeah, he got the records. But Ja Rule had records that everybody know.
everybody knew.
Yeah,
Right.
international records. So I told everybody, it also comes by the hits and how you perform them. And Ja Rule
Agreed.
had the performance.
He did.
Fat
Joe does
Joe,
not. Mm-mm.
no, he was just bopping. That's what he had.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
but that's all he's ever done. Ja
yeah,
Rule is more energetic. That's why I said like he reminded me a little bit more of DMX because
yeah,
if anybody has ever seen DMX perform, DMX gave you poetry. He gave you something that where you're like looking at him the entire time.
yes,
He was a very energetic person to me on stage. And Ja Rule reminds me a lot of him
yeah,
because Ja Rule is very animated on stage and
yes,
he
very
gives
is.
he gives a very good performance. And I was happy to finally see him because for me I just felt like the industry kind of like forgot about him a little bit
Yeah,
because
they
he's
did.
been on the limelight. So
Yeah,
it was good to finally see him for him to get his flowers. I love that.
yeah. I was mad that he didn't perform the what's that song, The Pledge.
Yeah.
When I was waiting for him to perform that, I'm like, oh, maybe Nas might come out.
I know, right?
And I'm like, never mind. Nas ain't gonna come out.
Nah, nah. But there's always this controversy, of course, with T with Ashanti and Nelly. Everybody trying to think they're gonna get back together. So, it was all that controversy was in there, and I don't know. I think Nelly kind of just did it for spite, so that to spark rumors
yeah.
and to kind of stir up some tea because his
Mhm.
relationship didn't go well. Now you want to get back with that with
You want to
with your
crawl
old
back in?
girl.
You want to crawl back in?
Yeah, with old girl.
Oh.
But so it was just one of those things where I was just like, okay, you know. But I
Yeah.
love Ashanti's personality. I love how she is. kind of coming into her own now,
Yeah.
and she is, definitely someone who loves herself so
Yes.
much, and she has kind of just given this aura like, look, I'm handling my business. I'm trying to be a
Yeah.
businesswoman. I don't have time for the BS. So, shouts out to Ashanti for that, like for real. Like she wasn't trying to give nobody no tea, like she said on the live. Nobody
Yeah.
finna be talking about her having no tea parties.
Yeah, I feel like all the ladies that came out represented. Shanti represented, Lil Mo
Yeah,
represented,
definitely.
Vita represented, because a lot of people like Vita haven't had a record for a long time.
For a
She was
long
supposed,
time,
she
a
was supposed
long
to
time,
come out.
Gates.
She never came out. So
Never.
just to see her on the stage and getting her flowers,
Yeah.
that's what we wanted to see. So I'm glad Ja Rule, I don't know what calls he made, like, yo, I need you to come out. That was a
Yeah.
no, that was a nice surprise. No, just
Yeah,
to see their
definitely.
team come out. No, Fat Joe bringing Remy Ma out, like, no, she deserved her flowers too. Like, no, because now while people close their doors on her that from
They
music
did.
on the music side. So
They
no,
did.
so for her to perform her records, and she did her verse from Andy Up. No, I didn't think she was gonna. No, Fat Joe was gonna let her perform that record, but that was cool. So I was happy about that. So
Right,
overall,
right.
it was good. And Nelly, no, he better try again. He better do something else.
Find something
Shanti,
else.
yeah,
Find
Shanti
something
don't
else.
want him. She moved on.
She's moved. Yeah, exactly.
She moved
Exactly.
on.
Well, as always, Gates, this has been
Yes,
a great show as always.
yes,
Can't wait for the next one. Again,
yes.
everybody, as I stated, we having a special show next week with Lil G from the group Silk. So make sure you all
Oh, okay.
tune in for that.